Evelyn Harrington had buried her daughter 10 years ago, so when she saw a stranger walk into her home wearing Lily's missing butterfly brooch, the world didn't just stop, it split open. The porcelain cup slipped from someone's hand, the staff froze mid-breath, and the storm outside suddenly felt tame compared to the one rising inside the estate. The new maid, Claire Dawson, stood trembling under Evelyn's furious stare, unaware that the brooch on her chest was about to expose a secret powerful enough to destroy one of the most influential families in Oregon. And before the next hour ended, a second revelation would leave everyone reeling. That brooch belongs to my dead daughter. The porcelain cup slipped from someone's hand before it hit the marble floor. For a heartbeat, no one in the sunlit drawing room of Harrington Estate dared to breathe. Afternoon light poured through the tall windows, glinting off crystal and silver, but all of it shrank to a single point. The trembling hand of Evelyn Harrington, pointing straight at the chest of the new maid, at the chest of Claire Dawson. Claire felt the weight of every stare press into her like a physical force. Her fingers rose on instinct to the small silver butterfly fastened near her collarbone. She had bought it at an antique stall downtown, drawn to it without knowing why. Now her throat closed as if the clasp had tightened around her neck. "I am talking to you, Evelyn said, rising so abruptly that her chair toppled backward with a violent crack. The oldest servers flinched. The younger ones stared. Everyone in Portland knew Evelyn Harrington as the woman no one crossed. Even her husband kept a careful distance. I do not understand, ma'am," Claire managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Evelyn's eyes were not just angry. They were wild, raw, haunted. The perfect mask she wore in every magazine interview had shattered in seconds. She stepped closer, heels clicking like a countdown on the marble. "That brooch," Evelyn said, each word a knife, "was made for my daughter Lily. She was wearing it the night she died. It disappeared in the crash. Everyone told me it was gone forever. And now you walk into my house wearing it like a pretty little trinket?" Behind Evelyn, Richard Harrington slowly lowered his newspaper. He had been the picture of polite detachment a moment earlier, the billionaire CEO pretending to read while his wife hosted yet another charity tea. Now the pages slid from his hands. The color drained from his face. Marla Jensen, the housekeeper who ruled the staff with iron routines and cool looks, froze in the doorway, a silver tray shaking in her hands. Teacups rattled. One tipped and shattered, dark liquid spreading like blood across the white floor. "Where did you get it?" Evelyn's voice rose. "Answer me." Claire swallowed. Her heart hammered so hard she thought the entire room could hear it. She had lived most of her life in the kind of neighborhoods people like the Harringtons never drove through, yet this was the first time she truly felt poor. "I bought it," she said, surprising herself with how steady her voice sounded, "at a vintage market downtown, near the river." "Liar." The word cracked through the room. Evelyn reached for the brooch. When Claire instinctively stepped back, Evelyn lunged and yanked it away so hard the fabric of Claire's uniform tore. Metal scraped against skin, pain burned across her chest, but Claire refused to flinch. She would not give this room full of strangers the satisfaction of seeing her crumble. Evelyn held the brooch up toward the chandelier. The butterfly's wings shimmered, tiny stones catching the light like frozen tears. Her hands began to shake. Black mascara streaked down her face as tears she never allowed in public finally spilled over. "Lily," she whispered. "My Lily." Richard moved then, crossing the room in long, measured steps. He reached for his wife's shoulders, but she tore away from his touch. "Do not," she snapped. "Do not comfort me. Not now." Her gaze snapped back to Claire, full of grief and something dangerously close to hope. "This was lost the day my daughter's car went off near Ravencliff Road," she said, voice breaking. "The police told me someone must have stolen it from the wreck. I searched for years. And then you just find it at a market and decide to wear it into my home?" Marla found her voice at last. "I knew something was off about her," the housekeeper hissed, stepping forward. "Her references were too clean. Everything about this girl is too convenient. How much did someone pay you to come here?" She looked Claire up and down with thinly veiled contempt. "Did you think you could play this family like fools?" "Enough, Marla," Richard said quietly. His tone was mild, but there was a warning buried in it. "No, she is right," Evelyn cut in. "Who sent you? Are you with some journalist? Another family trying to hurt us? Tell me the truth, Claire, or whatever your name really is." Claire felt something shift inside her. Fear was still there, coiled tight in her chest, but another feeling began to rise through it. Anger. A deeper, older anger that had always lived behind the polite smile she wore for customers, bosses, anyone who thought her life was theirs to manage. "You hired me, Mrs. Harrington," she said, and now her voice was no longer small. "You read my file, you called my references, you approved every paper. If there is something wrong, maybe you should be asking yourself why you did not see it, instead of accusing me of things I did not do." The room went deathly quiet. No one ever spoke to Evelyn or Marla like that. A server at the back pressed a hand to her mouth. Someone whispered a prayer. For a long moment, Evelyn just stared at her, stunned. Then her eyes narrowed, like she had finally found a worthy opponent. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Really?" Claire hesitated. The truth felt suddenly heavy, too heavy for a room like this. But there was another instinct inside her, older than fear, an instinct that had dragged her toward that antique stall, that brooch, this house. "My name is Claire Dawson," she said. "I grew up on the east side of the city. I was adopted when I was a baby. The only thing I have from before that is a birthmark behind my left ear. My mom used to joke it looked like a star." Something flickered across Evelyn's face. "A star," she repeated. "What kind of star?" "A five-pointed one," Claire said slowly. "Like a little bright star someone drew on my skin." Every drop of color drained from Evelyn's cheeks. The brooch slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a sharp metallic ring that echoed far too loud in the silent room. Richard gripped the back of a chair, knuckles white. Marla stumbled back as if slapped. "My daughter Lily," Evelyn whispered, staring at Claire like she was seeing a ghost. "She had a birthmark just like that. Same place, same shape." Claire's breath caught. That cannot mean anything, she told herself. Birthmarks repeat. Coincidences happen. But the room felt suddenly smaller, the air thicker, as if some invisible thread had snapped into place between her and this grieving woman. Before anyone could speak again, footsteps pounded down the hall. A man in a dark suit appeared at the doorway, hair windblown, tied askew, mud splattered on his shoes. He was breathing hard, like he had run up the long driveway. "Mrs. Harrington," he said, voice urgent, "we need to talk. Now." Evelyn spun toward him, raw nerves exposed. "Not a good time, Paul," she snapped. "As you can see, I am dealing with something." "It is about Lily's case," he insisted, ignoring the stares of the staff. "About the crash. New analysis came back this morning. I drove straight here." The room seemed to fold inward. Richard straightened, all pretense of detachment gone. "You told us that case was closed years ago," he said, his tone suddenly sharp. "You told us there was nothing else to find." Detective Paul Mercer looked past them, his gaze landing on Claire, still standing in the center of the room with torn fabric and red skin where the brooch had been ripped away. Something like shock flickered in his eyes, as if he recognized her from somewhere he could not place. "I thought it was closed," Paul said quietly. "I was wrong." Evelyn took a step forward. The world that had already cracked beneath her feet now felt ready to shatter completely. "What did you find?" she asked. Each word dragged out of her. Paul swallowed. "The car that went off Ravencliff Road that night," he said, "did not have one victim. Forensic review found evidence of a second passenger, a baby." The word hung there, thick and impossible. Claire felt her knees threaten to buckle. A baby, adopted as an infant, no information about her past, a star-shaped birthmark behind her ear. Evelyn's hand flew to her mouth as a sound tore out of her that was not quite a scream and not quite a soot. Richard closed his eyes like someone had punched him. And in that suffocating silence, Claire understood one thing with terrifying clarity. She had not walked into this mansion by accident. If you were Claire, standing there with that birthmark and that brooch, would you stay in the Harrington house to uncover the truth? Yes or no? For several moments after Detective Paul Mercer revealed the existence of a baby in the wreck, no one in the Harrington estate drawing room moved. It was as if the world had tilted, spilling everyone into a freefall, leaving them grasping for something solid that no longer existed. Claire's pulse thrashed in her ears. Evelyn stood frozen, one hand covering her trembling lips, her eyes fixed on Claire like the universe had just delivered her a miracle she was too terrified to believe. Richard recovered first. His voice was a low, controlled thunder. "All you told us that night was conclusive. You told us Lily died alone." Paul removed his glasses, wiped them with shaking fingers, then slipped them back on. "I told you what we believed based on the evidence available at the time, but new imaging tech just reopened several dormant cases for review, including Lily's. When the crash fragments were rescanned, something didn't match the original interpretation. We found a second set of seatbelt fibers. Traces of infant formula, a tiny knitted blanket wedged under the passenger seat rail." Evelyn let out a sound that seemed torn from the center of her being. "Lily never told us she had a baby. She, she would have told me. She looked at Claire then, her voice cracking. Wouldn't she? Claire had no answer. Her entire body felt weightless, as if the floor beneath her shoes had dissolved. She stumbled back a step, but Richard steadied her by the elbow before she could fall. Easy, he murmured, a steadying force amid the chaos. You need to breathe. Marla Jensen, who moments earlier had been full of suspicion and disdain, now stared at Claire as if she saw her reflection in a mirror that told an impossible truth. Even she seemed shaken. A baby, she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Oh dear God. Paul shifted, aware that every pair of eyes in the room was fastened to him. There's more. The temperature in the room dropped a degree. I knew it, Evelyn whispered, voice sharp and breaking. There's always more. Paul nodded. There was a woman on scene the night of the accident, someone who claimed to be a good Samaritan. She told the responders she saw the crash from the road above and climbed down to help. Her name was Dr. Helena Brooks, a pediatric trauma specialist who lived nearby at the time. Richard frowned. Brooks, that name is familiar. She gave testimony years ago, Paul said. But there's something strange. Her statement filed in the final report doesn't match the one she originally submitted. The first version was overwritten, replaced by one with fewer details. Overwritten by whom? Richard asked. But he already knew. Everyone did. Paul's jaw tightened. By someone with access to police servers and medical files. Someone with motive. Evelyn's voice was barely audible. The Sullivans? The name hit the room like a blunt object. If the Harringtons were royalty in Portland, the Sullivan family was the silent empire behind half the city's political and corporate power. They were the sort of people who had dinner with governors and made deals in private jets. Their influence stretched far, quietly woven into hospitals, banks, and law enforcement. And Lily, beautiful and rebellious, had once fallen in love with the Sullivan heir. Brandon Sullivan, Richard said, confirming what everyone already suspected. I told Lily he was trouble. I told her he would ruin her life. He did, Evelyn whispered through clenched teeth. And he killed her child. Claire felt a cold shiver ripple down her back. She had always wondered about the strange moments in her childhood. The anonymous donation that allowed her adoptive mother to afford her early surgeries, the unmarked envelopes sometimes left at their door, the uneasy feeling that someone was watching them from afar. She had dismissed them as coincidences. Now she wasn't so sure. Paul cleared his throat. Before we jump to conclusions, you need to hear what Dr. Brooks told me this morning. I visited her at her cabin. She was hesitant, terrified actually. She said she had been warned years ago to stay silent. Warned by who? Evelyn demanded, the edges of grief sharpening into fury. She wouldn't say, but she insisted Lily was alive when she reached the car. She was holding a baby girl wrapped in that tiny knitted blanket. Lily begged her to take the baby away from the crash before anyone arrived. She said someone dangerous was coming, someone who couldn't know the child existed. All eyes slid to Claire. Paul's voice softened. Dr. Brooks said Lily pressed the baby into her arms and whispered the name Claire. A soft gasp escaped Claire's throat. Evelyn swayed as if her legs could no longer bear her weight. Richard grabbed her shoulders, pulling her close. That was the name we were going to give her if she'd had another daughter, Evelyn whispered. Lily always loved it. Claire's eyes burned. Something inside her, something that had ached in silence for years, cracked open like a fault splitting through stone. But why? Richard demanded, turning to Paul. Why hide the baby? Why not tell us the truth? Paul hesitated. Because Lily believed the Sullivans would take her child. She believed they wanted control over the unborn heir. She may have feared that Brandon or someone in his family would hurt the baby to avoid scandal. Evelyn snapped, they would kill a child? Paul looked away. I don't know, but Lily believed the threat was real. Silence fell again, thick and suffocating. Richard regained his composure. Where is Dr. Brooks now? We need her. Paul swallowed hard. You can't. She's missing. I found her cabin abandoned. Half-packed bags, signs of a struggle. Evelyn's hand tightened over her heart. No, not now. Not after we finally found something. Claire's skin prickled. The room suddenly felt exposed, watched. She scanned the tall windows, the tree line beyond them. What if someone is still trying to cover this up? She whispered. Everyone turned to her. What if, Claire continued, voice trembling but steady, the Sullivans already know I'm alive? A sharp crack sounded from outside the window, like a branch snapping underfoot. Everyone froze. Paul moved first, stepping between Claire and the window. Nobody goes anywhere alone, he said. Until we know what's going on, you all stay inside. "Evelyn, Richard, take your staff to the East Wing. Claire stays with me." Evelyn shook her head violently. "Absolutely not. She stays with us." She reached for Claire's hand, clutching it tightly. "I lost my daughter once. I will not lose her child too." The words echoed in Claire's chest, staggering her with a sense of belonging she had never known. But another crack from outside yanked them back into fear. "Paul," Richard said, voice tense. "Someone is out there." Paul reached into his jacket and drew his concealed weapon. His eyes swept the window, jaw clenched. "Then we're out of time." Claire's breath caught. "Out of time for what?" she whispered. Paul's eyes didn't leave the window. "For pretending this is just a coincidence. If you were Claire, realizing the Sullivans might already be watching you, would you trust the Harringtons to protect you? Yes or no?" The moment Detective Paul Mercer raised his weapon toward the window, silence swallowed the drawing room of Harrington Estate. Claire stood between Evelyn and Richard, her heart pounding so hard she felt every pulse in her throat. Outside, the tree line was still. Too still. The kind of quiet that suggested someone was waiting, listening, calculating. But the crack they had heard didn't repeat. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. Slowly, Paul lowered the weapon just enough to ease the tension, but not enough to reassure anyone. "I'll secure the property," he whispered. "If someone's out there, they've either backed off or they're watching to see what you do next." Evelyn clutched Claire's hand, refusing to let go, even when they moved to the safer east wing of the mansion. Richard walked on Claire's other side, one hand pressed lightly on her back, guiding her forward. And Claire, caught between fear and an inexplicable sense of belonging, felt something inside her shift. She wasn't just a maid anymore. She wasn't just a lost child. She was becoming part of something she hadn't dared imagine, a family. Once inside the protected wing, Paul motioned for the security staff. "Lock every entry point. Post guards. No one in or out until I finish my sweep." Then he turned to Evelyn. "You need to hear the rest of what I learned from Dr. Brooks before she disappeared." Evelyn nodded, though her eyes flicked anxiously toward the windows as the storm clouds gathered outside. Paul continued, "Doctor, Brooks told me Lily was terrified during the final days of her pregnancy. She planned to come home and tell you everything, but she knew it was dangerous. The Sullivans were pressuring Brandon to make the child disappear. They believed the existence of an heir born out of wedlock would expose them. Lily refused to terminate her pregnancy or give the baby up." Evelyn pressed a hand to her mouth, her face twisting with heartbreak. "My daughter was fighting all of this alone?" Paul nodded. "She tried to escape that night. She was driving to meet Dr. Brooks when she lost control, but the crash may not have been an accident." Richard stiffened. Claire felt her stomach drop. Paul continued in a low voice. "Dr. Brooks believed someone tampered with Lily's brakes. She thought the Sullivans had sent someone to force Lily to surrender the baby or to stop her from leaving with her daughter." Evelyn trembled. "They murdered my child." "We need proof," Richard said sharply. "We can't accuse one of the most powerful families in Oregon without evidence." "Then we find it," Claire said, surprising everyone. "We can't let Lily's story end like this." Evelyn pulled Claire into her arms, crushing her in a hug that felt like something decades overdue. "You have her courage," she whispered. "Her fire. Her voice." Paul took out his phone. "Dr. Brooks sent me something right before she vanished. A video file. I didn't want to play it until we were all together." They gathered around the screen. When Paul pressed play, a shaky video appeared. Dr. Brooks sat in a dim room, eyes swollen with fear. "If this reaches you," she whispered, "it means I couldn't get out in time. Lily entrusted her daughter to me. She believed the Sullivans would do anything to control or destroy the evidence of her relationship with Brandon. I protected the baby as long as I could. But if they find me, Claire, if you're watching this, you must know the truth. You are Lily's child, and the Sullivans know you survived." The video glitched and cut off. Claire felt her chest tighten. "They're coming for her," Evelyn whispered, pulling Claire closer. "We have to stop them." Just then, Richard turned toward Paul, a fierce determination burning in his eyes. "We don't fight this alone. I'll call our lawyers, our private investigators. If the Sullivans think they can bury this, they've forgotten who they're dealing with." Paul nodded. "I'll bring in state authorities. If we're going up against the Sullivans, this needs to be done by the book." Meanwhile, thunder rumbled outside. Rain began lashing the windows. The atmosphere pressed heavy, like the house itself braced for what came next. Hours passed. The storm intensified. But inside the estate, something else was unfolding. Claire sat beside Evelyn, watching her study old photos of Lily. Evelyn's fingers traced the face of her daughter, grief and love mixing in her eyes. "She looks like you," Evelyn whispered, brushing a tear away. "Your eyes, the way your mouth curves when you're thinking. Claire, you're her." Claire swallowed hard. "I always felt out of place, like I came from somewhere I couldn't remember. Now I understand why." "You came from love," Evelyn said softly. "From my daughter, and you came home to me." The door swung open, startling them. Paul strode in, soaked from the storm. "They're here," he said. Claire's breath stopped. Evelyn stiffened. Richard rose to his full height, his CEO presence radiating authority and power. "Who's here?" Richard demanded. "The Sullivans, Brandon and his father, claiming they want to talk." "They're not stepping foot in this house," Evelyn snapped. "They won't," Paul reassured, "but you need to decide how you want to handle them. They already know Claire's alive. They know she's Lily's daughter. They're offering a deal: money, silence." Evelyn's voice cracked like lightning. "They want to buy her?" Paul nodded grimly. "Or erase the evidence." Claire stepped forward. "No, I want to see them." Evelyn grabbed her hand. "Absolutely not." "I need to," Claire said gently. "Not alone, but I need to look them in the eyes and hear what they have to say. For Lily, for myself." Richard nodded. "Then we're all going." The meeting took place in the estate's formal library, with the storm rattling the glass behind them. The Sullivans arrived with perfect posture, expensive suits, and rehearsed expressions. Brandon Sullivan looked almost relieved when he saw Claire, but his father, Howard Sullivan, looked cold as stone. Howard spoke first. "We've come to make things right. Name your price." Evelyn nearly lunged across the table. "You think this is about money?" Richard placed a restraining hand on her arm. "Howard, you destroyed our daughter's life, and you tried to destroy our granddaughter's." Howard's eyes flickered with annoyance. "Accusations without proof. What we are offering is a peaceful resolution." Claire stepped forward. "I don't want your money or your peace. I want the truth." Brandon's facade cracked. "Claire," he whispered, voice trembling. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know she kept the baby." Claire studied him, searching his face for sincerity, and then, unexpectedly, tears filled his eyes. "My family forced me to cut ties," he admitted. "They controlled everything. I was too weak to fight them. Lily begged me to run away with her, but I didn't. And the night she died, I tried to meet her, but I was followed. I think they hurt her to silence the scandal." Howard slammed a hand on the table. "Enough!" "No," Brandon said, lifting his chin. "Not this time." Paul stepped on forward. "Your son is confessing, and your servers are already under investigation. This is over." Howard's face drained of color. For the first time, the powerful patriarch looked small. The Harringtons won their case. Lily's death was ruled a homicide. Dr. Brooks was found alive, hiding in a safe house. The Sullivans faced charges, botchines, and national disgrace. Brandon cooperated fully. Claire was officially recognized as Lily Harrington's daughter. But instead of stepping into wealth and power, she chose something quieter but greater. She created the Lily Hope Foundation, offering refuge and support to young women facing coercion, violence, or abandonment. The Harrington estate opened its doors for the launch event. Evelyn stood beside Claire, holding her hand, introducing her proudly as her granddaughter. Claire looked at Lily's photo on the wall, feeling a strange warmth wash over her. She whispered one sentence, "I made it home, Mom." If you were Claire, discovering the depth of your mother's love even after death, would you forgive the past to build a better future? Yes or no? If this story touched you, please comment below and tell me what you think. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Let me know which country you are watching from. And if you believe this is a story worth sharing, please share it to spread kindness to even more people.